Welcome. Okay, let's talk about AI. It's absolutely everywhere, right? But with all this power, the big question is how do we make sure we can actually trust it? Today, we're going to break down some incredible insights from a Stanford webinar that brought together top experts to figure out that very problem.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start by figuring out what trustworthy even means when we're talking about AI. Then we'll look at the 8 core pillars that build that trust. After that, things get interesting as we explore the new risks from what's called agentic AI. And we'll even dissect how an attack works. Finally, we'll see how building the right guardrails is actually the secret to moving fast, safely.
So let's kick things off with that fundamental question. What is trustworthy AI? As the slide says, it's about a lot more than a non-leaky mug. When we trust a simple object, our expectations are pretty straightforward. But for AI, wow, the picture gets way, way more complex.
I mean, a mug has one job, right? It holds your coffee, or it doesn't. But an AI isn't a single-purpose tool. And this quote from Venet Raalo really hits the nail on the head. An AI has this enormous spectrum of capabilities. So for us to trust it, it has to meet a whole bunch of different conditions all at the same time. It can't just be good at one thing. It has to be reliable, safe, and fair across the entire board.
Now, what's really cool is how researchers are trying to get their arms around this big, complicated idea. A huge collaborative paper called Trust LLM actually broke down this whole concept of trustworthiness into these distinct foundational pillars.
And this gives us a fantastic look at what those pillars are. You start with the absolute basics, truthfulness. We need the AI to not make stuff up, to avoid hallucinating. Then you've got safety, fairness, and robustness, which makes sure it's dependable and not biased. But it goes so much deeper into things like privacy. Our data needs to be protected, and transparency, so we can actually understand how it's making its decisions. And maybe most important of all, accountability. When something goes wrong, someone has to be responsible.
Okay, so just when we think we have a handle on it, the challenge evolves. Because as AI becomes more agentic, and that's a key word here, it means it can act on its own to achieve goals, it opens up a whole new class of threats that we've never really seen before.
So let's be clear, agentic AI is not just a chatbot answering questions, it's an active player in the game. Think about a coding agent. You could ask it to build a piece of software, and it could decide on its own that it needs a specific tool, go find that tool on the internet and install it, all without you micromanaging every single step. It's a doer, not just a talker.
And here's where it gets a little bit scary. The protocol a lot of these agents use to talk to each other, it's called MCP, has zero built-in security. It's like we've rewound the clock to the early days of the internet, back when we used HTTP. Remember that? Anyone could just listen in and read your data, which is why you'd never dream of typing your credit card into a website. Agentic AI is basically living in that insecure pre-HTTPS world right now.
So, this fundamental lack of security creates a huge vulnerability. It opens the door for a very specific, very dangerous type of attack that has security experts on high alert. It's called prompt injection.
Think of it like a heist movie. Seriously, you're the boss, and you give your super smart AI agent its mission. But an attacker, the villain, finds a way to sneak in and secretly slip a new page of orders into the instruction manual. The AI, because it's designed to be helpful and follow instructions, just does what the new orders say. It's been completely hijacked to do the attacker's dirty work. And the stakes here are unbelievably high. As Neil Dwani from Stanford points out, a successful prompt injection isn't just about tricking an AI into saying something silly. It's about an attacker getting their hands on the keys to your entire system. It's a total loss of control.
So, that's pretty terrifying. How on earth do we build defenses against something like that? Well, the answer, surprisingly, doesn't start with some brand new, fancy technology. It starts with people, and a major shift in how teams need to work together. You see, in the past, you'd have the security team over here, guarding the company's servers and data, and then way over there, you'd have the AI safety team, worrying about things like model bias. Well, those days are completely over. In this new agentic era, those two worlds have slammed right into each other. The folks protecting the company's crown jewels have to be in the same room from day one with the folks who prevent the AI from being misused. And the mindset that has to drive this new collaboration? It's what Neil Dwani calls being paranoid and prepared. It's a huge shift. You have to go in with the assumption that bad actors will try to abuse your system, and you have to proactively design for that instead of just waiting around for something to break. And what's so fascinating is that our best line of defense isn't some sci-fi fantasy. It's actually kind of boring. It's these time-tested, old-school security principles that you see right here. Simple stuff like never ever trusting user input, using cryptography, enforcing strict access controls. These fundamental rules are our best bet in this crazy new world.
Okay, for our final section, we're going to use a really brilliant analogy that completely reframes that whole debate we always hear about. Having to choose between moving fast and being safe in the global AI race.
For decades, this was the mantra in tech, especially in the early days of social media, right? You heard it everywhere. Move fast and break things. The whole game was about innovation at any and all costs.
But it turns out the break things part was a really bad idea. It led to huge data breaches and all sorts of systemic problems that forced a major rethink. The new mantra, one that even companies like Meta adopted, became move fast with stable infrastructure.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the key lesson for AI. Why is the German Autobahn so fast? It's not chaos, it's not a free-for-all. It's fast because of its incredibly well-designed roads, its strict rules, and its disciplined drivers. Safety and structure aren't the enemy of speed. They're the very things that make speed possible.
And that leaves us with this one final critical question. In this huge race to build the future of AI, real sustainable progress won't come from a reckless sprint. It's going to come from thoughtfully engineering a safe, stable, and trustworthy road. Those guardrails are what will allow all of us to travel forward together at truly incredible speeds.